Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Juanita Smith. I serve as the executive sponsor for diversity and inclusion for the Junior League of Dallas, and we are so honored to have you here today for our JLD Diversity and Inclusion Summit. So to get us started, I'm going to hand it off to Krista Sanford, who is our incoming president for our centennial year, and also partner at BakerBots. Krista.
Thank you, Renita. As Renita said, I'm a partner at BakerBots. I also serve as the co-chair for our Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And I will say I have been looking forward to this event for some time because it is just the best collaboration between two organizations that are near and dear to my heart. BakerBots is really focused on diversity and inclusion, and we've actually gone through the process of revising our strategic plan to really be innovative in this area. And as the president-elect for the league, I'm also excited to see what the league is doing to lean into this issue and really become a leader in the community and in the nonprofit area with respect to diversity and inclusion training. And this summit is one of the ways where we are leading in this area. The BakerBots has been a partner with the Junior League for many years now, and we saw the opportunity to partner in the diversity and inclusion area. And the summit has gone on for several years now, and we're excited that we're able to meet together virtually this year since we did have to cancel it last year. But I'm going to not hold you any longer from the great remarks that we have coming. I'll now turn it over to Lanasha, who will introduce our speaker today. So thank you for joining us. We look forward to a great summit today.
Thank you, Krista, and thank you also to BakerBots for being a sponsor for this summit for this year. My name is Lanasha Howes. I am the Diversity and Inclusion Committee Chair for the Junior League of Dallas, and I'm so excited today to introduce to us our illustrious and dynamic speaker. Today, we are going to hear from Marshawn Evans Daniels. She is a TCU alum. She's also a Georgetown School of Law alum. She's the mother of triplets, and she is best known for being a reinvention strategist for women, teaching them how to live a bolder life, walking in their purpose. She's a serial entrepreneur, creator of the Confidence Movement, and founder of She Profits. She's an author. She has written Believe Bigger, Discover Your Path to Your Life Purpose, and she's a TV personality. So looking forward to hearing how she can help us to walk in the path that we were created to be in. Thank you so much, Marshawn Evans Daniels, for being here, and I turn everything over to you.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and it is a pleasure. What Lanasha didn't say is that we've known each other since maybe freshman and a half year of college. I think she came to TCU halfway through. So it's an honor to be invited. I am actually also from the Dallas area. I grew up in Richardson, and I summered during my law school time in Dallas as well with two law firms there. So just want to thank everybody for the invitation, but let's dive right into today's topic. I firmly believe that purpose is the most powerful force on the planet. I believe we're created on purpose, with purpose, from a place of purpose, for the very purpose of purpose. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of purpose, and it is, but here's the thing. Most people on the planet don't know their purpose. And this I know for sure is that when a woman doesn't know her purpose, she settles. She settles for people pleasing and protocol and this thing called appropriateness and politeness in terms of doing what seems appropriate and right for what a woman is supposed to do. I learned this actually at 11 years old, growing up in Richardson in the suburbs. And it was around that time, you know, when the street light is coming on, where it's not quite day and it's not quite dark, but it's got that in-between lighting happening. And I was just staring out the windows, people watching, but there wasn't much activity happening at that time of night. And I remember seeing one of my neighbors. She had hair all the way down to her little buttocks, and she was a short lady. I knew where she lived. I didn't know her name, but she was walking really fast and her hair was just swinging from side to side. And I'm staring, but I also realized that she cannot see me because I have got what's called blind faith. Now, for those of you who were around, I know we've got a lot of younger generation now, but there used to be these things called blinds. And they kind of had like this metallic-y feel to them. But the windows, my parents told me that I could see out, but that nobody could see in. So I always operated with blind faith when I was people watching in the neighborhood. And um, this neighbor, she stops right in front of our house and she's staring at me. And I'm going to stare right back because she can't see me, right? But then she does something that kind of wigs me out a little bit. She moves from staring to walking. She walks across the street, up the walkway of our home, and then rings the doorbell of our literally yellow brick home. And I'm thinking, am I in trouble for staring? I know it's not polite. But I hear my dad in the back of the house yell, "I'll get the door." So, I'm a daddy's girl and I'm curious to know what's going on. I know if I'm in trouble, it's not going to happen in front of this lady. So she proceeds to explain as I nuzzle my head underneath his arm that she needs a babysitter like right now. She needs to leave the house and she needs someone to watch her two kids. And so my dad looks down at me and says, "Do you want to do this?" And I look up at him and I said, "Sure." So I go put some shoes on. I wasn't doing hair, makeup, things like that back then. And within like 3 minutes, we go across the street, 2 doors over to her house, up the walkway into her house. And in that time, she explains quickly how to make sure that her house doesn't burn down and that her kids don't end up in child protective custody while within my care. And then she is gone. And so I'll fast forward 2 hours later. I think it was 2 hours. Like when you're 11, do you really have a sense of time? But she comes back home and she asks me how things went. And I wanted to say, you raise Bebe's kids. Now, some of you may not know what Bebe's kids are, but Bebe's kids are the kids that you're like, well, essentially what I really wanted to say was, your kids never, ever, ever, ever need to have sugar ever again. But I was too polite to say that. So instead I said, everything went fine. And so then she reaches into her pockets and starts crumbling, and I hear this sound of paper, and it turns out she has something, she's pulling money out of her pocket. And she says, "Well, I didn't have an opportunity to stop by the bank, but all I have is this 1 and this 5. Which do you want?" And I find myself staring again, but this time I had a choice. Now, what I really wanted to say is both. I wanted to say, "I'd like both, please." Now, truth be told, I probably actually earned both, right? I filled in on short notice. I watched 2 kids who didn't know me for the first time, and I put them to bed, and I cleaned up the living room. Some of you want to hire me right now, right? But I felt this gnawing feeling come up inside, like that would be greedy, like it would be inappropriate, like I would be reaching for too much, asking for too much, and literally being too much, taking up too much room to dare to ask for truly what I probably had already earned and more than deserved. And so instead of reaching for more, I settled for less. I said, "I'll take the 1, please." And she takes both of the bills in her hands, pulls her arms back and said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm sure." So she takes the 5, she crumbles it up, puts it back in her pocket. I take the 1, I fold it up, and I put it in my pocket. I leave out the house, back across the street. My dad apparently is already waiting for me at the front door, knowing it's time for me to come home. And as I walked back to my house that day in the suburbs of Richardson, I was very proud of myself, actually. Why? Because I earned an honest dollar. It was the first time that I had been hired. Now, I had not thought in advance what my compensation would be. I was 11. And a lot of times we think that we are not seen, and out of nowhere someone sees us and an opportunity comes. And because we didn't anticipate it, we weren't necessarily prepared for how to actually own our voice in the moment of opportunity, how to speak up for ourselves. But the real question is this: why did I feel that gnawing feeling? You see, the other thing that I learned that day, in addition to the power and the honor of earning, just being able to earn, it was my first time really as an entrepreneur even. I also learned that if you allow yourself to settle for less, nobody is obligated to stop you. Now, if you are somebody who is actually really, really focused and serious on personal professional development and you're taking notes, that's a good writer downer. If you allow yourself to settle for less, nobody is obligated to stop you. You see, I wanted her to tell me that I had earned the 5, not even just both, the 1 and the 5. I wanted her to see my worth. I wanted her to see my value. I wanted her to see that I had gone above and beyond, that I had cleaned the kitchen, right? And not the kitchen. I still don't do that very well. The living room. And how many times in our lives have we gone above and beyond as women and just hoping that someone would see who we really are, what we really carry, the caliber of our work ethic, our integrity, our heart, and our worthiness for more. And we use our activity to try to communicate our viability and our worthiness. And so what I learned that day was a huge lesson at 11 years old, that if you allow yourself to settle for less, nobody is obligated to stop you. But still the question remains. Still the question remains. Oh, let me say one other thing. Because I hadn't thought in advance about what my compensation would be, you are always going to receive what someone gives you. Right? I don't know who said this. I've heard it several times from different people, but it stuck with me, is that you don't get what you're worth, you get what you negotiate. Now, I even had the opportunity to say yes, but where did that feeling come from where I felt like I was wrong? I was taking up too much space. It's that moment where we get ready to use our voice, and our voice is not just in what we say, it's in how we think, it's in how we decide, because that's our inner voice. So what was that little voice inside? Right? That would cause me to feel like I didn't have a right to ask for what I already earned, and even what was available was still not enough for what I watched your babies, I watched your kids. So let me take you into what I believe. So I said that purpose is the most powerful force on the planet. Well, there's the 2 competing forces and voices that are always at work, I believe, in our lives. And the first voice is one that you know very well. I call it little me. Now, you know little me. You know little me very well. Little me is the obnoxious little roommate in your head. It's that voice that says, who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing, dreaming so big? Why are you asking for more? You should be grateful. You should be humble. You should be polite. You shouldn't actually ask for what you want. You should just receive, because that's what a nice little girl's supposed to do. That's what a spiritually sound person is supposed to do. That's what ladies are supposed to do. And so little me knows you very well, but little me is that obnoxious roommate in your head that causes you to question literally everything. It's the inner critic. It's the voice that says, not this time. Don't ask for it. Wait till next month. Oh, wait till next quarter. Wait till next year to ask for that raise. Wait until it's the right time, the appropriate time. Don't ruffle any feathers. Don't be perceived as aggressive, or even the dimmed down version, assertive. Little me is the voice that also says it's too late. You've waited too long, or you're too young, or you're too brown, or you're too old. Little me is the voice that makes a case about yourself, against yourself, and you've begun to believe all of the accusations as true, and they become your identity. So little me is somebody that knows us very well, because little me knows that if you actually dare to believe in who you were, if you actually owned your voice, if you actually dare to not look for external validation of your approval to receive, not what people give you, but what it is that you desire, that you would step into a whole new dimension of living, of bringing light to people, of also changing lives, even whatever your work is. Little me knows how powerful you really are. So little me goes to work to do what little me does, which is to keep you small. But take heart, don't worry. There is a counter voice. That counter voice is a voice I call future me. And future me is the voice that says, yes, you, especially you. Why not you? Don't even ask why not you. Let me tell you why you. You were born for such a time as this. You are here for a purpose and a reason. And there is a unique DNA that flows through you, that flows through nobody else. And so we need exactly what it is that only you have. And the future me is a voice that tells you to take that risk, to ask for that raise, and to add tax. And future me is not scared of little me. In fact, Future me swallows little me like a vitamin for breakfast and only gets stronger. You see, fear for future me is actually the breakfast of champions, because fear indicates to future me that you're actually stepping into the future that is calling you right now, but we silence our helper. We silence our actual true identity that is taking us into our true voice, because just like little me knows who you really are and is terrified of extinction if you step into it, future me knows exactly who you are, and future me's entire mission and objective is to get you to dare to believe in the incredibleness of your mind, in the incredibleness of your voice, but also in the incredibleness of your very existence, that you are here for a reason, not just to retire, but to reinvent and to pull other people into a movement simply by the nature of how you show up and live your life. And so these two forces and these two voices, they battle for your brilliance. But here's the bigger question, right? We got little me over here beating us up, right? It's not really what other people do. Now, what they said may become internalized, but it's really what we say to ourselves about ourselves. And then we've got future me over here trying to pull us into the future in the present moment right now. But we silence our helper and we listen to our critic. But why? What are they battling over? Why are we this important? Why is the battle for you that important? Well, I believe that future me is trying to get you through what I call the purpose map and the purpose journey. And little me is terrified of you actually seeing what I'm about to show you right now. But guess who's not scared of little me? You know, I'd like to swallow that vitamin right now, if you'll swallow it along with me. And so I'm going to walk you through the 5 stages of reinvention, the 5 stages of the purpose journey, regardless of where you are. And I'm going to draw it with you. You can draw along with me. Okay. This virtual version makes it a little hard to be up and do whiteboards, but we're going to make it do what it do because we are women. So I'm going to draw along and I'll hold it up as I go, and you can take notes in your notes as well. And let me say, I have done this purpose map for some of the biggest corporations in the world, whether it's Toyota or Nike or Office Depot, Home Depot, Ernst & Young, Delta Airlines, and also for women entrepreneurs, for women who are in career growth and transition. And it does not matter. This map is not a respecter of persons. It will, I believe, meet you where you are if you will open your mind to be open to receive something in a different way. Because here's the thing, I really hate boring corporate talks and trainings. I just don't like it. It's just not my thing. So I'm going to give you what I believe is reflective of the women's movement that is happening right now. And I want you to pay attention to figure out where you are on this purpose map. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box. Okay, just a box in the corner. And I'm going to draw 4 of them, and I'll show you how this looks so we can kind of prep our map in advance. I'm going to draw 4 boxes with a bridge in the middle. So this is the base of our purpose map. We got 2 boxes with a bridge here and 2 boxes. All right. I do not consider myself an artist, so do not judge your artwork. The first stage is the stage called discovery. Discovery. So in that first box, I want you to write the word discovery. Okay. In the discovery stage, this is where we ask the question. And at each stage, we're going to ask a critical defining question. In the discovery stage, we ask the question, who am I supposed to be? Who am I? Who am I supposed to be? And this is where we get shoulded on in life. This is where we are told what we should be and what we shouldn't be, what we should do and what we shouldn't do. See, this is where we gain this inner critic. This is where little me first makes its home in our head and in our heart. This is where we learn conformity, because we listen to who has said what is appropriate. This is where we listen to who has given us the protocol of life. Now, not everything that you've received is bad, but not everything that you have received is tied to your destiny. So my inner rules might be different than yours. And so each of us has adopted our own internal navigation system that I call the rules. So underneath this box, you're going to draw an open book. as best you can. And then you're going to write the word, the rules, underneath it. Okay? It's a little book, little squiggly lines. However, and if you are a fantastic artist, upgrade your book. It's fine. But we each have our own internal set of rules based off of what we were told, what we were taught, what we were shown, and what we experienced. A lot of times what people give us, they feel it's wisdom, but really it's just their wounds, trying to prevent us from making what they perceived as mistakes, trying to prepare us for a path that is appropriate and will not lead to shame or rejection. And so we are taught to play it safe very early on, especially as women. We are conditioned to wait until we are spoken to. We are conditioned to be ladylike, whatever that's supposed to mean. We're conditioned in all of these norms from our churches, from our parents, from our friends and our peers, from our teachers, from our culture, from media. And all of these different images form and fashion our mind, but also they form and fashion our inner compass. And so we look for what will give us praise and what will cause us to be accepted, right? Nobody wants to be rejected by the tribe. And so for me, as a little girl growing up in Texas in the 80s, when I was in elementary school, for me, it was a lot like integration for the first time. You know, we talk about a lot of racial issues that are happening. These aren't issues, these are realities. And I think telling stories matter to help people to understand that a lot of times we see things from the civil rights area in black and white, but my parents were there, my grandparents were there. This is not many generations ago. Many are still living from that generation now. But even for me, going to elementary school in the 80s, it felt like integration for the first time. It was the first time that my teachers had had Black children in their classrooms. And my brother was a year younger than me. He was in kindergarten. And I was in the first grade. And I remember seeing my brother drugged down the hall by his arm. That was another moment where I didn't know how to speak up. But what I remember most was that my teacher, who was white, all my teachers were white, we had a reading circle happening in the hallway that day. And I'll never forget that she didn't do anything. And that everybody stared like it hadn't happened. And everybody stared at me because they knew that was my brother. We were two of five Black kids in the entire elementary school. And so we also learn sometimes that people won't stand up for us. We learn and sometimes we internalize that if something has to be done, we have to do it by ourselves. Sometimes we don't, we gain distrust early, right? But there was that feeling again of not feeling like I could actually use my voice. And then those who are supposed to protect and those who are supposed to create a safe environment internalize and teach you that you're not supposed to. And they will not support or stand up for you either. And so anyhow, that was one of the reasons why I said, I'll take the one. I don't want to be perceived as a problem child. I was labeled a problem child in elementary school, mostly for talking and getting my name on the board. For those of you who remember chalkboards, you got one check and then two checks, and then between 2 and 3 checks, depending on the teacher, was when you ended up in the principal's office. So I had internalized that I was a problem child, that I took up too much space. I didn't want to take up space in my neighborhood. I didn't want those problems on my street like I had at my school. I felt like I was an embarrassment to my family. And school was not an easy thing for us as Black children in a white school that didn't, and also my brother was labeled, we were both labeled special needs. We both went to some of the top universities in the world. My brother went to Rice University. I went to Georgetown and Texas Christian, magna cum laude, over $200,000 in scholarships. The labels that people place upon you can be internalized. And for years, even when I went to TCU, and I'm friends with Lanasha. Lanasha and I actually did projects together in political science. But she'll tell you the story about how when we were put together on a project, I had a whole conversation with her about carrying your weight, because I'm going to carry mine, because I had learned as a child that I couldn't depend on people, right? And even in college, I remember TCU sending me the invitation to join the honors program. And I was like, I'm not an honors level student. My teachers in elementary school said I was special needs. I didn't even get to take the test for the gifted and talented students. They couldn't the TCU is wrong. They don't understand that the reason I get straight A's is because I work hard. It's not because I'm smart. This is the danger of us labeling kids. This is the danger of us labeling anybody, because we have no idea the almost irreparable damage that it can create to someone's identity. I'm grateful for my parents. I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for people that were surrounding me to give me a chance to actually experience something bigger and better. But it is in the discovery stage that so much of our head trash gets placed in our heart. And we wonder why we have anxiety or fear or nervousness. It's because it was gifted to us by those who thought they were doing what was best for us. And so the discovery stage is where we ask the question, who am I supposed to be? And that takes us into stage 2. I hope I didn't get too deep with you, which is the talent stage. So in the second box, I want you to write the word talent. The talent stage is where we ask the question, who did I decide to be? So again, the first question is, who am I supposed to be? The second question is, who did I decide to be? Now, the way we answer that question is largely based off of who we believe we are good enough to be. And for women, many of us have been overachievers, striving and seeking to be first generation opportunity creators that many of us, our moms didn't even have, and certainly not our grandmothers and not the women before them. So you pick a path, and this path becomes your life, and you end up climbing what I call one of the 5 or multiples of the success mountains for women. So you're going to draw 5 mountains. I struggle with this mountain drawing thing even 3 years later. Okay. I think I got a pretty good, it's decent. My mountain drawing is decent today. So you're going to draw 5 mountains. I'll even give you some mountain caps here. Just draw 5 mountains. This is not beautiful mountain drawing. It's not. It's okay. It's all right to show up imperfectly. So these 5 mountains, the first is the Motherhood Mountain. This is where we find our identity in who we are as a mom. The second mountain is the Marriage Mountain. This is where we find our identity in our status with our partner, with our spouse. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, with any of these mountains, right? But the question is, what happens when you define yourself by those as though that's all that you are? The third mountain is the Mending Mountain. This is our inner desire to fix things for other people, right? Your inner Olivia Pope, it's handled, where you take care of things, you come in with your cape and you fix things for people. But do you know why we do this? A lot of times we do this because it gives us a sense of significance and importance and value. At least we can create value, which is often where we become the people pleaser. So the third mountain is the Mending Mountain. The fourth mountain is the Making a Difference Mountain. This is the mountain where we find our identity in service. Now, remember I said none of these mountains are bad, but if your identity is found in your service, then do you know who you are when people don't need you? Do you feel rejection? Rejection of your worth, rejection of your value? And then the fifth mountain is the mountain that I call the Money Mountain. Now, this is where I hung out. This is my natural magnet, the Money Mountain. The Money Mountain represents the mountain of prestige. It's where we gain an identity based around our career, what we do, what we accomplish, how we succeed, and how we are viewed as businesswoman, as a professional, where we also view our success and our worthiness based off of our accomplishment and our resume. You see, because I was labeled a problem child in the discovery stage, I realized pretty early on, around 5th and 6th grade, it was really by the time I got to junior high in Richardson that it really clicked for me. I got kind of a fresh start. And I realized, actually in the 6th grade, I got a history award. And I liked the attention better than getting my name on the board. And I got a taste of success. I got a taste of positive affirmation. Now I had that at home, but you don't spend most of your time at home when you're a kid. And I have amazing parents that speak life and destiny. but the exposure of who you're around, and again, this was the 80s. It wasn't that long ago. um, I remember, just as one quick thing, I remember in 4th grade, Jesse Jackson was running for president. And I remember in my history class where we're learning about politics, that my teacher, Miss Sanders, says during an open discussion, she says, well, to be honest, I'm not ready for a Black president. I'm the only Black child in that classroom at 9 years old. And so these thoughts get placed into our minds early on. And so I learned that I could get positive affirmation. I could be seen as valuable and as important if I succeeded. I don't know if that relates to any of you, but I want you to think about, which of the 5 mountains have you found your identity on? Because these titles we give ourselves, they become idols. And these labels we wear, these stories we tell about who we are as though it's all that we are, they become fables, but we believe them and we live in them and we grow them and we add people into them and we build entire lives around them. And this is what happened for me. I went to Georgetown for law school. I left Georgetown early to do this show called The Apprentice. Maybe you've heard of it. I was on 10 out of the 13 weeks. And when I came off of that show, I went straight into my law firm job. I actually left on a Friday. I got fired. This is how I knew the last president made mistakes, is when he fired M.E. And so when we got, let's see, I leave, I got fired on a Friday. I leave Saturday morning to graduate at Georgetown University Law Center. That Saturday morning, I had to tell my parents we had to buy tickets in less than 24 hours for them to get there. I get my cap and gown when I get there, and then I get on a plane and go back to New York to finish all the rest of the taping. 10 out of the 13 weeks means I almost won the show, right? But I come off of this show, I go straight into my legal practice. It doesn't air until I'm about to start working at this law firm in Atlanta, one of the biggest firms in Atlanta. And so I feel like I've arrived in this great season of life. I've been on this national television show. I've been a speaker for a long time, but now that's even growing. It's helping me to help grow the profile of the firm. And I'm barely 25 years old. And I have this great career, but I was miserable. I was miserable because I was looking out the window on Peachtree in Midtown in Atlanta, and I could see everybody else living their life, but I wasn't. And I felt again that I should be grateful. I felt that I should be experiencing what should feel like more, right? Because this is what you asked for. Look, y'all, I had a BlackBerry. You can remember when I was in law school, I paid my way through law school, no loans, no debt. Doing coaching for Miss America, Miss USA contestants. I had my own coaching practice back then before I even knew what coaching was. And I had been in the Miss America competition. I was 3rd runner up to Miss America. I learned about pageant mastery, quite frankly, being from Texas, it literally is the pageant capital of the world. But I represented DC at Miss America. I had all these experiences and I felt that they had brought me to this moment in this high rise on the 22nd floor of this law firm. I wanted to be a real life Claire Huxtable, but I didn't feel as happy as Claire. Her hair would fly when she came in to see her kids, and I wanted to be her, and I didn't feel like Claire. I felt like I was chained to this environment. And I started losing hair that I didn't have to lose and losing weight that I didn't have to lose, right? I've always been fairly slender. And I realized I was having really deep anxiety, not really just because of the work, but also because of the environment. There was a woman there who was a Black female partner who I had gone to the firm to be mentored underneath her. I was hoping that this vision that was cast, that I was going to have somebody for the first time to have a Black female that would pour into me, that would help me to see my potential, and was the very reason why now I'm facing borderline depression, right? Because everybody's not always excited about young, fresh talent. For some reason, there's still this mindset that there can only be one. Now, I'm a baby in this legal thing. I don't even know anything. How could I be? I don't know, but I will tell you, my sisters, is that sometimes your light can be really bright. And there's a double-edged challenge here. One is, do you have an opportunity to help another woman who is either your peer or someone who could use mentorship? Do you have an opportunity to help her brighten her light? And also, Have you been someone who has dampened someone's light? It's very difficult to actually have a level of self-awareness to realize that. But I've come to a place to realize that people cannot give you the mentorship that they don't have to give, right? But at the time, at 26, 27 years old, I didn't understand that. But here's what was happening. I was meeting a lot of professional athletes in the NFL and the NBA. And I took them to my firm and said, hey, we can represent the players. We can help them with taxes and estate planning and trademarks, copyrights, intellectual property, things like that. And they said, that's not what a first year associate's supposed to do. The exact words were, you should be going to all of the different law things. I forget, I'm so far removed. I forget what they're called now. All the stuff where we as lawyers gather together, right? And all the different associations and the bars, so like all of that. And I was like, well, hold on now. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time and I can see the way to the partner suites. You got to bring in business, but it was too early. And I do have a self-admittedly, nobody puts baby in the corner type of a mindset. The thing about when you do know your purpose, even if you can't fully articulate it, but you know that you're a visionary and you know that you can see possibility. And when people try to really gaslight you into feeling like that's not what's appropriate, there comes a point where you have to determine, am I going to swallow the smallness? Is that because when you do, it changes who you are. It changes your intuition, your ability to actually see and feel like what's good for you. And so anyway, I make a decision to leave my firm, to start my own sports agency. It becomes the fastest growing women-owned sports agency in less than a year. My first client is a defensive end from the New Orleans Saints. He signs a $62 million 7-year deal with the Saints. And this is my first client. Now, this is someone I signed about a week after I left my law firm. And I had this client as a pro bono client, essentially a free client at first, because I was still trying to gain, experience. And when I gave my resignation, one of my other mentors at the firm thought I was going to work for somebody else. So when I said, no, I'm starting my own firm, she goes, hold on, Marshawn. Actually, she praised poop. She said, holy, you know what? And she said, you're going to have to buy your own pens and paper. This is a real story. And this is where I knew that it is so important for us to dare to be adventurous in our lives. Because what I recognized in that moment, staring across the table at another woman who had been in practice for 40 years, who I was, if I had stayed, I would have loved to have continued to learn from. But what I recognized is I didn't want to be that person. It wasn't about being in an environment. There's nothing wrong with that. It's everything wonderful to be able to grow in a place where you know that you're planted to bring great value and bring others into their value as well. But the idea of the fear was not something that I wanted to internalize and to become. And so I start my own sports agency, becomes the fastest growing sports agency in less than a year. I'm doing, I've got NFL, NBA players. My first corporate client is Rolls-Royce, and then Tiffany and Company, and then Nike and Kraft and Gatorade. This is within the first few months. I went to law school, y'all. They didn't teach this in contracts or property. I didn't know I had a natural gift for it, but being on The Apprentice showed me that I did have this flair for business. I'd never been formally in business in that way before, but I had a flair for words. And I want to challenge you, if you want to find your voice, if you want to step into your true, authentic voice, but dare to believe bigger than the voice that you've always experienced and getting off of those mountains, and you got to do something different to awaken new things, try new things, be around new people. And so the sports agency grows. I'm doing television commentary for CNN and Fox Business and ESPN, in addition to getting my clients on ESPN. And I also meet a man and fall in love, and we get engaged. Everybody say, aw. And this is supposed to be this dream wedding. I'm becoming a bonus mom to his 3 kids. And this was amazing. It's an amazing season for me because hearing the 3-year-old and giving her a bath call me Mimi, or the 8-year-old one day call me mom. That had so much more significance than anything that I had ever accomplished on my resume. Didn't even compare. And so when he asked me to marry him and I said yes, and we were getting ready to move to Chicago, I had been feeling exhaustion because I hadn't had a break since elementary school, since the 1st grade. He says, why don't you take a break, close your business down. I'd been feeling a need for a shift, but I didn't really know why, and just get ready to be a mom and a wife. And I thought, that sounds, like I can trust somebody. Someone actually would do that for me, would give me the space to breathe like that. And so I closed my sports agency down. I transitioned all of my NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and WNBA clients, some celebrities, to other representation. Clients that are virtually impossible to get, especially at the age of 27. By this time, I'm now 29 and entering my 30th year of life. And it's Monday morning before a Saturday wedding. I feel like this is this season I've been waiting for. I've tried to make all the right decisions, do all the right things, climb all the right mountains, do all the things that would show that I am adventurous and I'm helping people and I am operating in my gifts. And this is the reward that God is giving me for my faithfulness. And then I find out on Monday morning before a Saturday wedding while my fiance is on the plane from Chicago coming to Atlanta for wedding week, where we have a cake taste testing as soon as he lands and a meeting with the wedding planners at the host hotel venue. I find out that my fiance, my Prince Charming, is cheating on me. And I find out from the woman who he apparently, allegedly, is cheating with. Didn't think we were going to talk about that today, did you? And I will fast forward because of time, but I do write about this. Is actually how I open up in my book, Believe Bigger. But what I will say is that I do call him right away, and he is on the plane and he is saying all of these different things. Don't believe her. I knew something was going to happen. Don't believe. I heard the word believe 3 times and it triggered something in me. It felt like the crow. If some of you know that story from this book I like to read, that crowed 3 times. And something said, get dressed. And so I did. And I go to the airport and I hang out in the cut. You don't know what the cut is. It just means off in the back where nobody can really see you. And I watch him at baggage claim where he cannot see me. And it didn't matter what he said. It didn't matter about the conversation that somehow God gave me the grace to have in the car on the way to the airport without crashing. Didn't matter what she said. Didn't matter what he was about to say. I could see with my eyes, right? We have our eyes and then we have our eyes. I could see that what she said was true. And I could see that I was about to enter into a massive season of deception, that I didn't know this person that I was about to commit my life to. And so at this moment, when we do meet and then we do go and sit down and I can see this sulking persona, and we sit at this restaurant in Atlanta at the airport, I'm grateful for the enhanced security with Homeland Security, because I started to notice all the knives on the table. Let's just keep it real. I understand how women can snap because we put all of ourselves and our identity into these things. And how could someone dare come in and disrupt those things? And so I will fast forward to the day that the wedding was scheduled to take place, or the day after it was scheduled to take place. All of these people had still flown in because they couldn't get their tickets back. They couldn't get they booked their hotels. And then so many just loved on me. And so people still flew in, they still stayed at the hotel. And instead of a rehearsal dinner, we had an I Love Marshawn dinner. And so the day after the wedding was scheduled, and I say scheduled as opposed to supposed to, because just because we scheduled it never means it was supposed to happen. This was a key mind shift in me beginning to see a new season, was that maybe just because I scheduled it, just because I decided, and just because I willed it, doesn't mean it was actually part of a destiny. This is an important thing to recognize, because so many times we are so addicted to our schedules and to our resumes and to what makes sense that we miss the opportunity to experience life with its fullness. And I'm leaning up against this luxury vehicle that he purchased for me that now I cannot afford, while everyone's getting ready to go back home. All the hugs and love is about to go away. I'm on West Peachtree, one of the busiest streets in Atlanta, and I lean back looking at all this go around. And in a moment, for just a moment, everything goes silent. And I ask God, why did this happen to me? I said, God, you know me. I've been following you for a long time. I've tried to make all the right decisions. And he whispers, and this was not a woe is me, but this is, I don't care who's around. We're about to have this conversation right now, because everyone's about to leave and I need to have something that will keep me from living underneath my blanket. I can feel it coming. I can feel it coming. And he says with a whisper, you're going to be able to change the lives of women like never before. And I'm like, couldn't you have just sent me a memo? And then I'm like, I don't really like women. There's a reason why I work with professional athletes, NFL and NBA. I have 2 brothers. I have 8 male cousins. I was the only girl. It was my comfort zone. So when he said you're going to be able to change the lives of women like never before, that meant that I wasn't ready yet. I didn't have a heart condition for it. I didn't know what God meant, but I knew he meant it. And so what I recognized as I was going on a spiritual journey, for me, what enabled me to shift through that season is I had to get connected back spiritually. And so as I was going through this book I like to read, there's this passage in Isaiah 48:21 that this is what helped me. It said he split the rock and then water gushed out. Now, y'all, I've been having dreams about deserts. And when he said split the rock, and I'm like, look, I went to TCU. I remember taking geology at TCU. I remember the auditorium style classroom. I don't remember rocks with huge reservoirs of water. And it captivated me. And then this phrase of a split rock came to me. So I just drew a little squiggly line here. I'm going to go through the map pretty quickly as we close out here. This squiggly line here is what I call a split rock moment. So there was a split rock moment that was happening in that state because I was experiencing a desert, feeling abandoned, feeling like, how did this happen to me? Feeling like I can't trust anything. Everyone felt like mirages, and everything that I had gone to nourish me had now dried up. And so this split rock moment came in, but what also really captivated me was the water. The water represents new life. Was there something greater and new and fresh inside of this hard place? So if you're in a season of disruption, whether it was the year 2020, whether it has been a job shift or reorganization, whether it has been the way that people have treated you, whether it has been a health scare, whether it has been something with your family, whether it has been your finances, I just want to let you know that this is not something that is happening to you. And this is where you're going to have to dare to believe bigger with me, that it really is happening for you. You see, and it doesn't make it make sense. It probably will never make sense. You're going to have to let that go. It's not our jobs to piece things together. Our job is to step into the future. Okay, so what is the split rock splitting us up from? Above the 2 boxes, you're going to draw a cloud. You're going to draw a cloud about those 2 boxes, and you're going to write in there comfort zone. Comfort zone. Disruption comes to break us up with ourselves, to teach us to unlearn who we have been so that we can become who we were born to be. But when disruption comes in, we're going to get split rocked into this middle space called the gap. So in the middle, you're going to draw like a circle with some arrows on it. It's not that pretty, but it's okay. It's okay to show up imperfectly. And in the middle of the gap, you're going to actually write the word gap. Okay? In the middle of the circle, you're going to write gap. And this is where we end up kind of in this transition place. You're not quite in your promised land, but you're also not in Egypt anymore, but you're in this obscure, murky place in the middle, this place of transition. This is where I feel that most women are right now. That disruption is coming in, there's an awakening that's happening, but it's meeting us here in the gap. And it just because there's possibility doesn't mean that you'll step into purpose and destiny. The difference is going to be coming in how you choose to believe bigger in the face of what is going to be whispering in your ear, because little me loves this space and place. Little me will capitalize on all your fears and insecurities. Maybe they were right. Maybe you weren't lovely. Maybe you weren't worthy. Maybe you didn't deserve that. Or maybe this is happening because of all the other mistakes. You know what they said, it was always right. Little me is going to go ham on you. Little me is going to continue to speak. But when you dare to believe bigger by making bigger decisions, daring to step out of your comfort zone, daring to be able and willing to forgive what may not be forgivable, doesn't mean you have to accept or understand. It simply means that you focus forward on the future and dare to believe that there is a higher purpose and vision, and that your life is not your own, and that this is actually a part of a master plan that is designed to usher you into your promised land. You leave the gap with bigger decisions, and there's others that I can't go through for time. And you enter into this bridge. So on the bridge, I want you to write the shift, and you'll know that you're in the shift because you'll cover the F, right? I know you can spell it, ladies. When things hit the fan and it feels like things are going on around, you're going to ask, what is happening to me? And that's the third question that we ask in this third space, this third stage. What is happening to me? What is going on? And this is how you know you're actually in a position for your next big move. And so as we dare to stretch, dare to believe bigger, make new decisions, meet new people, we are actually in what is, you're going to draw, look, it's supposed to be a seed. It's not going to look like a seed. Don't judge my drawing. It's okay to show up imperfectly. It's a seed. It's a little seedling, okay? This is the growth zone. So we've been broken up with the comfort zone. We're split rocked into this growth zone, but it's going to feel first and foremost like a war zone. You know, one of the things that I was taught as a young girl that really helped me in this season was recognizing that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. It doesn't mean that the weapon won't form. It means that it won't prosper. And so it's going to feel like a war, but wait a minute. If I can dare to believe that I'm worthy and significant, then maybe this is not happening to me, it's happening for me. But why? Remember the water and the rock? It's because of what's inside of you that is seeking to come forth through you. And so from there, when we dare to do that, we'll start getting new ideas. We'll come to moments like this and recognize that this is just not a casual encounter. This is part of the growth and the awakening, calling you to even greater. And there will be new things and people that just seem to fall down out of nowhere. These are the ideas and these are the things that are daring you, the things that you have loved since you were young that you never stepped into or dared to believe. All of these things are going to be calling you literally out of the gap into the shift and to also prepare you forward. And they're going to take us into this fourth stage called gifts. Gifts is where we ask the question. You're going to write gifts and you're going to draw a gift box underneath. Gifts is where we ask the question, who was I born to be? Not just who did I decide to be? So we've asked the question, who am I supposed to be? Who did I decide to be? In this middle stage, we ask, what is happening to me? And now we're asking the question, who was I born to be? This is where you really find your voice. And you don't find your voice, your gifts, or your superpowers even on the sidelines. Destiny is a contact sport. It is. It's not an intellectual exercise. So for all of you who are used to how you've always done things, remember that what got you here will not get you to your great space and place and the ultimate fulfillment. It doesn't play by a rule book. This is a space of revelation. This is where you're going to have to actually believe that your intuition matters. You're going to have to ditch protocol, right? And trade it for possibility. And so it's in this gift stage that we find out what we're good at and that we didn't know. I didn't know that I was actually great with women because I had a disconnect there. I didn't know that I had a mind for branding because I had never been told that before. I certainly didn't know when I held my first event, November 20th and 21st, 2010, at the W Hotel, trying to figure out how to reinvent my life because the mortgage company did not care that I was on a spiritual journey with God to find myself. I did not know that that first event, I charged $1,500 because I saw some white males do the same thing. And I thought, I know as much as them. Thank God for future me in that moment versus me saying, I've never done that before. The most I had charged for a seminar before when I was teaching Miss USA contestants was $100. I didn't even know that you could do that without being a part of I didn't even know. And so I needed to pay my bills. There wasn't this altruistic, I wanted to help people, but people kept picking my brain. And so instead of me settling for a cup of coffee for $7 that I don't even like or drink, I decided to hold a seminar. And that first seminar, the University Ultimate Business and Branding Bootcamp, 35 people showed up. I wanted 50, but it was the right number. And that 35 people turned into women's conferences of 500 that have generated multiple millions of dollars in a day. Why? Because I found out that there was more to my life than my resume and my degree. And I am grateful for it though. And even with it, had I known what I know now about my actual identity, I would have gone into intellectual property. I would have understood how my mind actually worked. So each of us has gifts, and this is what I want you to realize. You have super skills that you gain in talent, but you have superpowers that you'll step into in your gifts. Now, my skills might be different than yours. I'm great with branding, messaging, and income generation. I didn't know income generation was a superpower, but I'm confident that it is. That's one of the things that happens when people work with me, that it's not my fault. It was a gift. Gifts are given, and you should never shy down and minimize your gifts or limit them to a checkbox of what people say are gifts. If you move other people forward in a way that makes things easier for them, that's your gift. It's that simple. I'm going to say this again. This is the whole point of the talk. If you move people forward in a way that makes it easy and simple and effortless for them, merely by the nature of your presence, you don't even have to work that hard to have a huge transformation for someone else. That's your gift. My brother went to Rice. He's in a lot. He's been in tech and startups. But you know what his real gift is helping people believe, especially kids. You see him with kiddos who don't even believe that they could possibly be on the team, and they start thriving and succeeding, and they're giving him the hugs because they believe. That's what's going to move that young person forward for the rest of their life. What is it that you do, right? Not just what you do with your hands. Like, you can have hands, those are your super skills, but your superpowers. Now, yours might be different than mine, but each of us has our voice. And that takes us into the last phase as we wrap up here. And I'll be happy to take questions if we have time. I lose sense of time. It's the stage called influence. Influence is what you're going to write in the last box. And you're going to do like the little amplifier there. You see, when you step into your superpowers, this is how you don't just step into your promised land, you lead others into theirs. Because the question we ask in this stage is, where am I being led to lead next? Where am I being led to lead next? And is it at the next level of your career, in your community? Is it the next level of service and mission? What is it that you're feeling led to lead? Is it to take time back so that you can truly lead in this season of motherhood so that you can maximize? Nobody can answer this question for you. Influence is not defined by likes or followers or size or expansion of territory of how we would actually normally describe it. Influence is about alignment with your actual assignment for this season, for now. And that will change over time. But so to wrap up, we started in the comfort zone with discovery and asking, who are we supposed to be? Then we answered that question with, who did I decide to be? And we picked a path and we climbed these mountains, and that path became our life. And then somehow disruption came into our life and split rocked us out of our comfort zone to take us into the growth zone. But certainly it felt like a war zone. But where are we ultimately going? And that is, you're going to draw a crown over the last two boxes of gifts and influence. When we find our superpowers, that's going to guide us into our actual assignment, not just doing something, but doing the thing that brings not only fulfillment for us, but moves other people forward. And this is called the glory zone. The glory zone. And the glory zone is where you operate with a level of joy and impact and income. And so I've grown a huge business, and I've been blessed to experience financial increase coming from a place where I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. You know, my friend Lanasha, who invited me to speak with you all today, she walked with me through that season. I could cry thinking about it. You know, someone who holds your hand. And as women, especially as professional women, we should never neglect our girlfriend, our sister circle that holds our heart, the chambers of our hearts together. But God did not just leave the promise of love unfulfilled. So there's several things that happen. I made some money. That's supposed to be a dollar sign. My marker's a little too fat. I made some money. I was able to impact a lot of people, and they've been very happy with me and my company and how we've been able to help thousands of people all over the world to radically change their lives. But I also met an amazing man who put a ring on it, who loves and covers and protects, and we are in business together. We are purpose partners and playmates. And I told you that I was going to be a bonus mom, right? To my then fiance's 3 kids. Well, this last year, in the middle of what seemed like the biggest mess in the world in our lifetime, I experienced a really magnificent miracle, and I hope that it inspires you to believe bigger regardless of the circumstances. In the middle of a pandemic, at the age of 40, I conceived and gave birth to healthy triplet girls who I hear them overhead right now with their childcare provider, getting ready clearly for breakfast. On this day, 1 year ago, I was 5 days away from giving birth to 3 baby girls who I pray I have the ability to raise into true warrior princesses that believe bigger as their birthright, that they decide what is bigger for them, and that they don't allow the world to conform them to what they say they should want. And so I want to encourage you today to believe that you matter, that you are here for such a time as this, that this season of awakening isn't designed to go around you. It's happening in you right now. We are meeting today, I believe, by unique design that would just give you the courage to ask for what you want. Nobody has a right to tell you what you desire. If you would dare to believe bigger, to reject less, to step into more. Because I believe in you. And so if we have time, I'm happy to take questions. Thank you for the invitation to be here with you today.
That was amazing, Marshawn. And I mapped out all the things you said. We didn't have to be a great artist. I know I have 1,000 questions. You've given us some rich questions. And I love the fact that you said you don't find your superpower by sitting on the sidelines. I'm going to put that on a wall somewhere, and because that right there was a nugget of so many nuggets. But for everyone that's still with us, and thank you for hanging on. Like, you have had a very captive audience. You've been getting comments in the chat of just your words really hitting and delivering what people need to hear today. So if you have questions, please put them in that Q&A box. So our first one is, what are your thoughts?
One request while you're going through the questions. For some of you, if you have like some really big aha moments, because I can't hear from you, but listen, one of my love languages is affirmation. So if you have some aha moments today, I'd still love to hear them, because we only have a few questions, which is perfect. But I would still love to hear what some of your takeaways and your thoughts are. Okay, perfect. Sorry, Juanita.
No problem. So our first question is, what are your thoughts on things we can do now with young children to ensure they discover, and more importantly, believe and live into their purpose?
Ooh. I have been asked this question before becoming a mom. This is my first time answering it as a mom. Well, I believe that as a parent, you have the job not just to get them through school, right, but to really help harness their identity. The one thing that we can do is choose not to see them through the lens of ourselves, right? The lens of who we believe that they should be, or even try to overprotect them from, it's not little, these are actually major things. I work with women around the world today who are still fighting the voice in their head of their parent that said they had to get this job, right? Like, this is now in your 50s and 60s, and I don't know what to do with myself, because the only thing I gave myself permission to do was what I was told I was good enough to do, and that I should be happy with just that. And also, not frowning on their desires and their career paths, but early on start looking at what are they good at. When I was 9 years old, my dad started a computer company called C. Evans Product Distribution Company. If y'all are from the Texas area, you've been there a long time, you remember Texas Instruments, and you remember the superconductor, super collider project when it came through. Like, I remember this from way back when, because my dad was a minority business owner and he got contracts. And I remember when that job left as well, when that project left, and it really destroyed his business. But I remember when I heard how long the name was, I'm like, we need something shorter. So I pull out a little piece of paper and I draw a diamond. And inside the diamond, I write CEPDC. And there's a little piece of paper, I tore it out a little bitty. And I was like, so basically what I was trying to do at 9 years old was draw a logo. Now, I didn't know that. I didn't know that I had a gift for acronyms. I didn't know that. And my parents didn't know what to call that or what to do with that. I didn't know when I was in elementary school that I was born to make money teaching people how to do things. I was in 6th grade and I would teach the 5th graders cheerleading because I was a cheerleader. So it just made sense to me. And what I did is I went to the principal's office, the same principal that used to call my mama. And I said, I made a flyer and I colored it, but I wanted it laminated. So I learned how to use the resources. I didn't know I had a gift around marketing. in elementary school. We didn't have the phrases. So I would really pay attention. What I'm learning now as a mom of almost 1-year-olds is that sometimes I want them to play with the ball and put the stacking cup in a certain way. It's amazing to actually see difference when you have 3, right? I had 3 babies in 6 minutes. So I've got 3 different personalities, but also I can see their different personalities, but also their preferences. I might want them to do the activity of stacking the cup. 2 of them might want to. My oldest, she may want to go off to herself. She's an alpha all the way. So I have experienced what it's like to be an alpha. What can I do for her? I can say, alpha is good, that you are a leader, you're an adventurer. Any principal who even dares to think to say aggressive or assertive will meet mama, because they met my mama and said, she needs to be respectful in class, but you will not dim her light. So start paying attention to what your kids naturally gravitate to. Don't force them into a box of what you think they should be doing. And lastly, the question we should ask our kids is not what they want to be when they grow up. We should be asking the question, what do you want to create? Shift the mindset altogether to have people who are not just falling in line, but are creating new worlds and new possibilities. What do you want to create? And my mom prayed the prayer of favor over me every single night. There was only so much that I could do with my own gifts and talents. And I think it's what I do for my babies. So that's my answer. And I can account to a lot of the things that have happened into my life as the prayers of my mom. So don't be afraid to pray over your kids.
Awesome. We give a couple words of affirmation before we get to our next question. A lot of thank yous. This is incredible. And thanks for hosting this. Y'all are welcome. You are phenomenal. This is exactly what I needed to hear. It's enlightening and inspiring. You are amazing. Exactly what I needed to hear today. And thank you so much. An aha moment is giving myself permission to trust myself. I'm good at what I do and don't thrive when I have to make myself small. And I've been shrinking violet for a long time. And also a lot of appreciation for the baby kids comment. I appreciate that as well. It was a great throwback. So our next question is, you mentioned being able to move people forward through being a light and mentoring them in a way that's easy and simple for them. How do we figure that out with people that we don't know very well or know deeply? What are some ways to kind of build those avenues if you don't have a relationship just yet?
So, you can find, first of all, is believing that, even this encounter today, part of it is believing that the answer is coming to you or it's already here. There's a lot of anxiety right now. I don't know my purpose. Let me first say, now, I wrote an entire, the purpose map is the framework of the book, Believe Bigger. So if y'all want to go deeper into it, it's out there. This is as much as I could give during the time we have. But when you are looking for this, I think that we forget that it's actually already in us. You cannot find your purpose, actually. It's a part of your DNA. It's a part of your personality. It's who you already are. And the perversion is that we've made purpose like a career path. I think it's the worst thing that's happening right now in this women's awakening is that we're telling women to go find their significance and find their purpose. And it's the same thing as just find a career or find a new business. It's not the same. It's not the way we're using the word, I should say, is interchangeably as though it's really the same thing. But your purpose will show up wherever you go. And as far as the question of asking and other people, you shouldn't ask people who aren't safe, right? Because you might be not helped by their answer when you don't want other people defining you. I don't think that this is a question that you answer. I think it's an experience that you observe. When you see what happens with other people, no one could tell me that I was great at branding. I had to see, because a lot of people think they are and they're not. How do you know? Because no one's getting any results. So what do you see? And also, what do people compliment you on? People see how great you are. What do people ask you? Let's meet up for lunch. Let me take you to get some coffee. What is it they want to pick your brain about? What is it that people call you for when they're just asking for advice? People see your value. People see this already. And it doesn't matter whether or not you charge for it. That just is how you take your gifts into a professional space. But when I was a kid drawing for my dad, that meant that was something that showed a propensity. As I got older, I recognized I was doing that for my friends. Not everyone received it, others didn't. So I had an actual understanding of design when I was on The Apprentice. I was the project manager for the Lamborghini advertising task against the men, second week, handed them their lunch on a platter, proudly. The guy who was the project manager on that team was a former NFL player. Gave it to him, gave him all the business, ladies. What does that matter? I just said, I can't really draw, but I still have an eye for design. I didn't know that by the way that I may not be able to draw, but the way that I give feedback and insight creates a visual that is effective and makes money. You look at the results. Now, you also look at what also brings you joy, because many of you have trained yourself to get results. I said, if I were to go back into law again, I took this test that I now have all of my clients take. And when I recognized on this one quadrant where they look at your propensity around research and follow through, I score a 3 on research. I was a litigation associate. I was in the wrong practice. You know how much case I was, and I was tired. It wasn't the job. I was out of alignment, right? If I were to do it again, knowing what I know about brands and how many trademarks I now own, I would have gone in intellectual property. So you can't always get this from asking someone. And here's the thing, let's lose perfectionism of having to get it right. Just dare to be an adventurer, to meet new people, to try new things, and to pay attention and put the pieces together of how people are complimenting you, how they're wanting to pick your brain. And so these are just some of the ways. I think it's somewhat dangerous to ask the question to let anybody define you, because that answer can also be limiting.
There we go. Love that. And especially going back to finding what brings you joy. I think we lose that so easily. To your point, and like really harnessing on those results versus the joy. So I'm adding that to my question list tonight for myself as well. Next up here is you talk about the gap and the shift. What are some tips of like surviving in that? If you're out there struggling financially, you know there's something on the other side of that equal equation where you can start getting into your gifts and influence, but you're really just stuck there in the gap and the shift. What's your advice there?
Can I get something real quick?
Yes.
Let me grab this. Good thing I didn't have pajama bottoms on, right? So I'm pulling out Believe Bigger for a second, because in the gap, it's cool to have an interactive opportunity. There are a few things that are really important that we begin. First of all, things like even phrases like surviving. Very dangerous terminology, because it also puts us in a lower mental state where we're just thinking of how we can get by versus daring to believe bigger. So the first blessing blocker that keeps us out of the gap, if you get this, it'll be on page 156, is self-doubt. Self-doubt is numero uno, because we have to believe beyond our resume. And when you're doing something new, you're not going to have the experience. That means you have the confidence. Confidence comes from experience. It's like riding a bike for the first time. You don't feel all that great. My baby girls are scared of, well, they're coming out of their newness with grass. I don't want to use the word scared. So apparently there's a sensory overload when you're on grass for the first time. And I guess it's kind of like if you are intoxicated and you're feeling all this stuff, or that you don't know what to do with it. As an adult, it's the closest thing I could think about it, but they're getting better at it. The first time they step on grass, it's intimidating. I haven't been here before. This is what it's also going to be as you do new things. You haven't been here before. It's going to feel like, what's happening, right? But then you go and you do it again. This is critical. And the more you do it, just like when you ride a bike, you get better at it and you get more confident at it. And then I'll just say the second one is isolation. The longer you stay alone or isolated where you're not with people who are believing bigger around you, this is going to also keep you in the gap. So there's 7 blessing blockers, but some of those 2 are the first 2 for a reason, because I don't believe that women are supposed to step into their promised land by themselves. This was the biggest shift for me, because I was the girl that had all the guy friends, and there's a reason why I worked with professional athletes. It was my comfort zone. Had no idea that literally, friends, our wombs are like tied together. I'm supposed to help you birth, and you're supposed to help me birth.
Right.
We're supposed to actually do this thing called destiny together.
And support each other. Yes, 100% agree with that. And on that same note, another word of affirmation here. It's been such a great and much needed message for me. I'm currently in the gap disruption stage, but believing bigger as I continue to walk forward.
Love it.
So next question here. And it was so great. And I just saw it. It was about, yes, what are your thoughts on how to stop over-investing in the money prestige mountain? I know I have personally planted a few flags and a half on that mountain myself. So what are your thoughts there on being able to get off that summit?
That's good. So if you think about a mountain, right, and you're going up the side of the mountain. Again, I said none of the mountains are bad. But if you plant yourself on the mountain, you'll think you're at the top. You really can't get over it. You can't see what's on the other side. And I've made more money, right? I've stepped into a whole different financial season. And the idea that the only way to experience that by climbing the mountain of protocol of the resume format, or whatever that identity thing is incredibly limiting. The reason why the split rock is coming is to say there's more. So it's not that you don't plant it there, it's just that you learn how to plant in a new space. What was once soil will become dirt when that season has expired. It's okay, Renita. Renita's about to have a fallout moment. It's only because she's going with the camera. If we had all these other cameras on, I wonder what would be going on. If we were in a ballroom together, I wonder what would be going on, right, ladies? So it's a true identity shift. What happens in the gap as you emerge into the shift doesn't happen until you're willing to unlearn, right? So this is an example I'm going to give that, regardless of what your religious state is, or if there is none, just take it for the story's sake that I'm going to give to you. Everyone pretty much knows the story of children of Israel, like wandering in circles, right? But why? It was because they had an enslaved thinking that was given to them and had existed for generations, you could not take into this new place called the promised land. And so it's in this middle space of the gap. This is why we wonder why and you can make more investments with an old mindset and still stay stuck. So it's about recognizing what is the higher vision, right? This is one of the things I love doing with professional women, because we get so many things put in us. Real education, from the word educere, means to draw out. Is I love doing believe bigger, specific type of vision boards, because it helps you to get a bit creative around what is that you might want to step into. And it is in that middle space in the gap where I said you're going to start meeting people and things start dropping from the sky, the little dots that I put. It's the best way I could describe that. Things are going to come. The best thing that you can do is move quickly, or lean into it, or make that connection, go to this networking thing, or go on that date. So, go on the date, do your personal development work, but don't go dating while you're still bitter and mad. You're going to attract the wrong person. And that who you are with is going to determine your future, and also your career and your money. It's all of that. So I'm just saying, in this middle space and place, one of the things that we can do is be open to be experimenting. But I'm a huge believer of self-investment, but invest for where you're going. Just don't invest for where you've been.
Yes. And I will speak for everyone, like, yes. That making investments in an old mindset will still keep you stuck. Yes. Mm-hmm. Another bullet for the board. So on that same tip, we're getting a lot of questions about, where can we find your book? Is there another one coming? And if we want to get personal help from you or learn more about your services, where do we go?
Very kind of you to ask. Y'all can call Lanasha on her cell phone. She knows I'm really quite silly. So you can connect with me at marshawn.com. There's a button that says start here, and you can actually get a free life class with me called Manifest Miracles. It's a really great mindset workshop. That's complimentary. And that'll also put you on my email list for when we open up new programs for entrepreneurship. But also I'm so excited about a community that we're building for Believe Bigger, for both professional women, entrepreneurial women, mamas, to be able to come together to do what I call destiny work together. I think that we've just been playing personal, professional, even spiritual development safe for too long. So you can get on that wait list there, and then you can find the book on Believe Bigger at believebigger.com. And it'll link you to all of the different retailers wherever books are sold, where you can actually get access to that at believebigger.com. So thank you for asking that.
No problem. I'm going to give 2 more words of affirmation, and then I'm going to pitch it back to you for your final thoughts here. We heard great summit. Thank you. My aha moment was to realize the negative things I have internalized about why I'm single and how that has impacted me. This also made me think deeply about why I'm such a people pleaser. Thank you so much. And then this has been unbelievable. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and story. It's inspiring us all. And again, the investing for your going, not where you've been, has resonated with so many. So thank you for investing your time with us today. We greatly appreciate it. And so I'll hand it to you for your final thoughts, and then we'll turn it over to Heather.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for inviting me. Thank you for, whenever professional organizations bring me in, I'm always like, let me just tell you something. I just don't do stuffy. Once you find the joy of seeing the glimmer in a woman's eye, see something bigger for herself, you can't just go back to regular PowerPoints as usual. So I just want to thank you for giving me the grace and the space to just bring my actual voice and not to have to make it fit in a way that fits the formula or the mold. And the theme around today was really about finding your voice and operating in it authentically. And I just want to leave you with a very short story closing out of what happens when we do that. I was in Atlanta doing this. I was actually doing a tour, but we were in the Atlanta stop for the Launch Your Dreams tour. This was back in like 2012, maybe 2000. I think it was 2012, because I hadn't met my now husband yet. And seminar fills up. There's a couple hundred people. Everybody leaves, and this woman waits until the very end. And she waits on the front row very humbly, and I could tell she was waiting to talk. And she comes up with tears. She's got a black blazer and a gold shirt on, and she's like, Marshawn, you changed my life today. And I was like, okay. She goes, no, you don't understand. For $45, you changed my life. I was like, it's okay. So I give her a hug, and she just hugged me so tight. Now she's, maybe in her mid 20s or so. Not a little girl, she's an adult, right? And my team, they kind of extend hands, and we said, you know what? We're just going to pray for her real quick. And so she leaves, and I see her 6 months later. I'm speaking at an entrepreneurs event, and she comes up. She says, you may not remember me, but I came to your Launch Your Dreams tour stop in Atlanta. And then as she talked, I was like, I remember you. And she goes, you may remember that I said you changed my life that day, but what I really meant to tell you, what I couldn't articulate, is that you saved my life. I was like, what do you mean, honey? And she said, that day I had decided to take my life. And I was in the park. I had drove up to the park, and I had my outfit on that I had planned for the police to find me in. She said she also had a note on the passenger seat for the police to be able to read and give to her family. And she pulls into the park, and the park is closed that day. And she's lived in Atlanta her whole life. She's never seen the gates closed in the park. And she's like, what do I do? Where do I go? She picks up her phone, and she sees an email from me. Now it's an automated email that sends a reminder saying, see you soon. And she then remembers that she purchased a ticket to come to the Launch Your Dreams tour event. And so she said, I listened to you talk. And then she hands me her book. And then she says she started this business and a nonprofit. And I said, it's only been 6 months. And she said, but when you're in alignment with your assignment, it doesn't have to take very long. Time collapses and you accelerate. And, for all the people who had told me that business wasn't, that significant, or that we can't have impact, she said, I listened to you talk about destiny, purpose, and vision, and possibility, and business branding, marketing, and sales. And she said, I realized that what happened to me, she had been through a lot of traumatic abuse, sexual, physical abuse, rejection, just difficult things that no human, definitely, it doesn't matter of age, should ever have to experience. And she said it was just too much. And she said, I was able to believe a morsel that maybe it didn't happen to me, but it happened for me because there was something greater inside of me. And now I mentor other little girls as a way to help shift that story for them, but also for myself. And so she said, thank you. I'll never get tired of, I have goosebumps of hearing and realizing the story that our voice actually matters. For everyone who said that you can't do faith and business together, you can't talk about destiny and talk about business and money at the same time. Nobody gets to define your voice. You get to decide what is bigger. And it doesn't matter what somebody else says it is. It matters what you believe to be true about you. So I believe in you. I believe the best is within you. It's waiting to manifest through you. And we cannot wait to hear more of the stories of the people who come back to you and say thank you. And many will never have an opportunity to, but the more that you show up as you, the ripple effect of your life will have the intention that destiny always intended. Take care, y'all. God bless. Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, Marshawn. I don't know if can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. That was absolutely amazing. I have my sheet here too of mine and loved it. On behalf of the Junior League of Dallas, the board of directors, I just want to give you a huge thank you for your engaging and thought-provoking presentation. It was authentic. You shared your personal walk with us, so much wisdom. I'm actually on your email list and there's so much support. I love getting them, so I'm glad you referenced that. Thank you to Baker Botts for your continuous support of the Junior League of Dallas and our D&I efforts. The D&I committee, it was a pleasure to work with you this year. You worked so hard to provide this great event and it was fantastic. All the attendees for coming. This is one of our many learning and training opportunities this year. We thank you for your support. And if you're a visitor, you're not familiar with the Junior League and you want to learn more or give to any of our partner agencies or ourselves, we would love for you to visit our website, jld.net, follow us on social media, learn more about our purpose. But I hope all of you got something out of this. Find your voice, embrace your authenticity, know your purpose, don't settle for less, dare to be an adventurer. Thank you, Marshawn. Thank you all for attending. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Thank you so much.